In times when Mr. Harvey was too ill to record his broadcast, he turned that task over to the creator and sole writer for the rest of the story, his son. Here's Paul Harvey Jr.
Now, the rest of the story. It was Edward Noble's fondest boyhood dream to make a fortune, to get rich. Ed attended Syracuse and Yale universities. He kept himself in pocket money as a reporter for the Watertown Daily Times, as treasurer for the Governor Athenian Society, as manager of a dining club. Each of those ventures was a moderate success, but the end of the rainbow was still beyond the horizon. When Ed left Yale, he chose advertising as his profession. He joined a New York advertising firm as a space salesman, became familiar with the profits made in advertised specialties, and he kept his eyes open for a specialty item he might promote on his own. Ed Noble discovered that item in 1913. He was 30 by then, and he had met a Cleveland chocolate manufacturer named Clarence Crane. Crane produced Mary Garden chocolates, among other confections. One of his lesser products intrigued Ed Noble. It was a peppermint candy. A peppermint-flavored candy which Crane manufactured on a pharmaceutical pill machine. Ed suggested it might be marketed as an after-dinner mint. Crane was reluctant, said the product was a slow mover. Ed remained confident in his promotional idea. Eventually, the two compromised. Ed could have the trademark and the entire stock of peppermint candy for $5,000. Well, Ed didn't have $5,000, but he cleaned out his savings, borrowed from friends, came up with $3,900. All right, it was a deal. But now Ed Noble, the young man who was going to make a fortune in advertising, was broke. On the bright side, he was in business for himself, but he was stuck with what seemed to many the least likely product in the history of the candy industry. So you know what he did? He walked into the nearest saloon, told the proprietor to keep the cardboard display container of peppermint candy beside the cash register. On the cardboard container was printed 5 cents. Now make sure, Ed told the proprietor, to give your customers at least 5 cents in change whenever you can. And the proprietor did. And one day, the profits from Ed Noble's peppermint-flavored candy blossomed into an empire of nickels. Innumerable saloons and restaurants later, in 1925, it had grown to an $11.5 million business. The company continued to net $1 million a year. 1938, it was worth $22 million. In fact, Ed Noble's nickel-at-a-time after-dinner mint fortune eventually acquired, among other things, this ABC network. For many years, Ed continued to manage the details of what he called a happy, whimsical little business. The cash register candy, his nothing enclosed by a circle. So next time you stand at the supermarket checkout counter and see that conglomeration of nickel-knacks over, around, and under, and on, inundating the cash register, you'll remember how it all began. The day Ed Noble taught that technique and made a mint. The hole-in-the-middle mint you know as the Lifesaver. Only now, you know the rest of the story.
And now, the rest of the story. You know, it's hard to imagine a time before Lifesavers. In addition to just eating them as candy or to freshen your breath, people use Lifesavers in many ways. Some use them to add flavor to hot tea. Some believe they can cure seasickness. Drivers use them to stay alert on long trips. Some use them as edible Christmas ornaments. Some use them as edible candle holders on birthday cakes. How do you use Lifesavers? I just like to eat them. You know, on an average day, 54 miles of Lifesavers roll candy is produced. That's enough candy in 1 year to stretch from New York to Los Angeles nearly 10 times. Approximately 100 rolls of Lifesavers are produced each minute. That's more than 200 million rolls of Lifesavers every year. More than 46 billion lifesavers are produced each year, weighing in at 57.5 million pounds. More than 125 million lifesavers candies are consumed each and every day. That hardly seems possible. In 1912, Clarence Crane, that chocolate manufacturer Paul Jr. told us about, created the Lifesavers brand as a summer candy that could withstand heat better than chocolate. Most stores had no way to keep chocolate cool, and on warm days it just melted on the shelves. Even on cold days, chocolate melts in our hands. He named the peppermint flavored rings Lifesavers because of their shape, which resembled the traditional ring-style life preserver commonly referred to as Lifesavers. Paul Jr. said Clarence Crane asked $5,000 for the formula and rights to Lifesavers, but Edward Nobel purchased the rights to the candy in 1913 for $3,900. Now, all of the sources I found said Edward Nobel paid $2,900 for the rights and not $3,900. Either way, it was a heck of a deal. Little did Clarence Crane know that Lifesavers would become an American icon, but it took the cleverness of Edward Nobel to turn it into that icon. Before selling to Edward Nobel, Clarence packaged his mints with a printed label which showed a salty old seaman dressed in a yellow oilskin and tossing a life preserver to a pleading young woman swimmer. The copy read, "Crane's Peppermint Lifesavers, 5 cents. Now, newspaper ads added the tagline, "For that stormy breath." That just didn't look or sound appealing to most people. After purchasing the rights to Lifesavers, Edward Nobel redesigned the packaging and had stores place it near the cash register, just as Paul Jr. explained. Lifesavers were a big hit from then on. In 1914, Edward's company produced 47,000 boxes of Lifesavers. 3 years later, his company was producing more than 2.5 million boxes of Lifesavers. That's 55 times what they sold in 1914. By 1920, Lifesavers was bringing in $1 million in profits. By 1938, the business was worth $22 million. Until 1921, Lifesavers came in just one flavor they called Pep-O-Mint. In 1921, 4 more flavors were added, which all paid tribute to the shape of the candy: Wint-O-Green, Clove, Licorice, and Cinnamon. In 1935, Lifesavers began selling the famous 5-flavor Lifesavers roll, which included lemon, lime, orange, pineapple, and cherry. During World War II, Lifesavers supplied the armed forces with 23 million boxes of candy. Lifesavers were packed into field ration kits for use overseas. Lifesavers didn't melt, they tasted good, and they were a reminder of life back home. Lifesavers quickly became a favorite among American soldiers, who often shared them with people wherever they went, and this helped Lifesavers to become a worldwide product. The post-war baby boom that extended into the 1950s meant that there was a rapidly increasing number of children in the high candy-consuming ages each year. More kids meant more sales. While prices were rising on almost all other consumer products, Lifesavers advertised that its candy was still only 5 cents. But of course, they eventually had to raise prices. In 2001, Lifesavers held a fun promotion. They filled in the hole of one Lifesaver. A Volkswagen Beetle was molded in the place of the hole. Whoever found this particular Lifesaver won a Volkswagen Beetle. Now, I was unable to locate any record of anyone winning that car. Whoever got that lucky Lifesaver probably never looked at it before eating it. Today, more than 45 billion Lifesavers are produced each year in 33 different flavors and 12 roll varieties. Gummy Savers, which are Gummy Lifesavers, came out in 1992. Lifesaver bags were introduced in 1993, which contain individually wrapped candy or mint tablets that are about 50% larger than the candy sold in rolls. 1995, Lifesavers came out with a Lifesavers drink, but it was quickly discontinued for lack of sales. Lifesavers Minis came out in 1996. There are many other flavors and styles of Lifesavers available to us today. Do you have a favorite? Before I go, I want to take just a moment to thank my subscribers. I also want to thank those of you who have joined and made contributions to this channel. If you would like to help this channel grow and improve, I'll leave a link to join or donate in the description. I'm Brad Dison. Thanks for watching, and now you know the rest of the story.